a new Conservative government with a responsible plan to save $125 billion.
These numbers are a joke. We aren't in a joke. We are in the worst crisis of our lives.
It is now just 6 days to the Canadian election, and the Conservative Party has finally released its costed platform, and the reaction to it is interesting. So in this video, I'm going to get to something that I caught in the platform that is just incredibly dishonest, but we'll get there shortly. I'll also get to Mark Carney's reaction to it, which is rather blunt, and details about just big picture what is in this platform. So let me first start with just details about the election, because so far a record 7.3 million Canadians have already voted. That's an increase from the 5.8 million who voted in 2021, who voted early in 2021. So I don't know what this says about results. I'm not sure it says anything, but it's good to see that people are going out to vote and voting early. I like to see that. Let's get to this platform. So I will link to this below the video. It is called Change for an Affordable Life, for Safer Streets, for Canada First. I like how, nobody was crying about crime until you brought it up and made it a thing. Again, historically, crime is down from where it was. But okay, whatever. Safe streets being one of the main subheadings here is a little bizarre. That said, the platform pledges $75 billion in tax cuts, referendums before future tax hikes. So I'll get to a little more details in discussion around that in a minute here. I first want to bring up the first thing that I searched in this platform, and that is unions, because Pierre Poilievre has been so adamant about claiming he is for the working class. I am standing up for the working class against the greed of corporations, and all his entire career, 20 years of his career, has been doing the opposite, but we'll get there. He writes in this platform, or I should say the party writes in this platform, respecting union rights, no return to anti-union bills like Bill C-377 or C-525, and no right to work laws. Interesting. Let's go back in history, shall we? So no more bills like C-377. Ah, damn that bill, that conservative bill that Pierre Poilievre voted for while the other parties voted against. Oh, but how about C-525? Oh, that C-525, very terrible. We were very against that. No more bills like 525, the conservative-sponsored bill that, once again, Pierre Poilievre voted for while the other parties voted against it. But how about right to work? They're very against right to work, except for the fact that Poilievre has been a big booster of U.S.-style right to work laws. So, it's just, when you see something like this, something that is so incredibly dishonest, completely ignores what the Conservative Party is, what they have fought for in their entire existence. How can you possibly trust anything in this platform? So it's beyond insane. As the Public Service Alliance of Canada writes here, this is about the bills, just to be clear what they were about. These bills were designed to weaken unions by forcing redundant and unreasonable financial reporting and by making it more difficult for Canadians in federally regulated workplaces to join a union. The Conservative Party has always been very openly anti-union. To pretend the opposite now, that Pierre Poilievre is going to be different when his career, it's one thing if he was, the one member of the party that was always fighting on behalf of unions and the working class, and then you could say, okay, well, the party was that. The party was anti-union, but now they're going to be different because Pierre Poilievre's at the head of it. But in fact, he's been the attack dog against unions again and again. He's been one of the leading voices attacking unions. So to pretend that he, as the head of the party now, is going to change things to be more pro-union is just completely ridiculous. So just to make it clear here, Between 2004 and 2023, Poilievre voted against federal anti-scab legislation not once, not twice, but 8 times. So again and again, his whole career has been about fighting against unions. So, like, I don't even care what's in this platform at this point because of the obvious dishonesty at the heart of what he is trying to argue his campaign is about, which is for the working class, when it clearly is not about that. Not to mention, anti-union lobby groups are endorsing Pierre Poilievre's conservatives. What does this tell you? So this is references here, Merit Canada, which represents non-union employers in the construction sector. So Merit Canada backing Pierre Poilievre. Who are they? Well, during the Harper era, Merit Canada was one of the most active corporate lobbyists in the Prime Minister's office. So they heavily pushed Bill C-377, the bill that the party now claims to be against. They are supporting Poilievre. Well, like, it's just crazy. Poilievre was a prominent supporter of the bill and also called for legislation that would make union dues optional, a cornerstone of right-to-work laws that, again, they now claim they're against, that undermine the collective bargaining process. Quote, "I am the first federal politician to make a dedicated push towards this goal," said Poilievre about introducing right-to-work legislation. Oh, but they're very... no more of those right-to-work laws. Damn those politicians who fought for that stuff, like our leader of the party. So, let me get to Pierre Poilievre just giving an overview of what his platform is about.
It is a plan that will lower taxes and debt by getting rid of bureaucracy, consulting fees, waste, and excessive foreign aid to dictators, terrorists, and global bureaucracy. It is a plan to build homes by removing taxes and bureaucracy. It is a plan for safe streets by locking up criminals for a change. Change to unleash our resources so that we can stand on our own 2 feet and stand up to Trump and anyone else from a position of strength. The choice is this: a 4th Liberal term with Mark Carney, whose reckless Liberal plan will add even more debt than Trudeau, or a new Conservative government with a responsible plan to save $125 billion and put us back on the path to growth and security.
I find it hilarious that Poilievre is positioning this platform as change. It's on the big board in front of him, change, when this is just your standard conservative platform of massive cuts and very little investment. So these cuts include, by the way, ending funding for the CBC. Now, I did a video, I think it was about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, on 3 months ago. CBC News catches Loblaws overcharging customers. So Loblaws was selling meat, including the packaging in the weighing of the meat. The reason I bring this up is because it is often CBC doing these sorts of investigations into corporate greed, because corporate-backed media rarely investigates their own being other corporations, because they're all in the same boat. You need places like the CBC to catch this. This is why there is this focus, even though cutting CBC funding is not supported by the majority of Canadians. So including it in the platform, there is no benefit to him politically to do that. But the benefit to him is that it's assigned to other corporations that he is on their side. It's incredibly, I mean, it's dishonest. It's sad that people fall for this kind of crap thinking, oh yeah, this is real change, when this is just back to what conservative governments do. They're also promising a, quote, taxpayer protection act to ban new or higher federal taxes without asking taxpayers first in a referendum. Now, what's hilarious about this is that referendums cost money. Rachel Gilmore, who, by the way, is a fantastic journalist, you should follow her online, writes here, a referendum would be incredibly expensive. Electoral reform would have cost $300 million, for example. Second, good luck ever raising taxes again, including on the rich. So, like, this is just to have to use a referendum for, say, a tax increase on the wealthy is bizarre, but would also cost more money than you should need to do for a tax increase. Also, they would lower education requirements for federal civil servants. Why? I don't know, but for some reason that's in here as well. So let me get to the reaction from Mark Carney.
There are so many phantom numbers in that platform. But let's start with the approach. With respect to $10 a day childcare, with respect to dental care, farmer care, the approach is, if you already have it, you can keep it, but no one else can have it. So we have two types of Canadians. I thought a Canadian was a Canadian is a Canadian. In our country, that is the case. So you bet if you haven't had children and got them in, you get the point. Secondly, there's a phantom growth that comes from the sky in his platform that arrives and changes his numbers, even though he doesn't have a plan to fight against President Trump. He also has a tax cut, a bring-it-home tax cut that never comes home. It doesn't arrive until year 4 and 5, right when we see the need of Canadians. Our tax cut compared to his plan, I'll give you one number, is 4 times larger this year. Is 4 times larger. These numbers are a joke. We aren't in a joke. We are in the worst crisis of our lives. It takes a serious government. It takes a serious plan. It takes a plan that delivers today. It takes a plan that delivers investment. It takes a plan that grows this economy, stands up to Trump, and moves forward with the brilliance of the workers here and across Quebec and across Canada. This is a real crisis, a real situation. The question is, within a week's time, who's going to be negotiating with President Trump and who's going to be managing the finances of this country? It's going to be François-Philippe Champagne and myself and our team? Or is it going to be a group that made it up on a napkin, released it a couple of days before the election, and has never taken responsibility for these types of decisions in the past? That's the question.
I love how blunt Mark Carney is being here. In another part of that response, he compares Pierre Poilievre to Trump and how he's importing the ideas from Elon Musk and Donald Trump and trying to make Canada more American. This is the argument that I think liberals should have been making the entire time. That said, they're doing fine, at least based on polling. They don't need my advice. But, Pierre Poilievre is more, his ideas are more right-wing, more American, more Republican than any previous conservative leader before him. So making that connection, especially right now, I think is important. It's important Canadians understand that what Poilievre is arguing for is, cuts to services, lower taxes, but cuts to services, making Canada more like what America is. If you like that, then cool. I guess Pierre Poilievre's your guy. If you're aware of how disastrous the current state of the U.S. is, then maybe you understand the problem with that. But as I said before, Mark Carney is the perfect person to put forward a platform with investments, because it's hard to argue against a world-renowned economist and claim that you know more than him. Like, Pierre Poilievre attempted that on Twitter after the Liberals released their platform, saying, after the lost Liberal decade, Mark Carney today promised $130 billion in new inflationary spending that will drive up taxes, food, and housing costs. Amazingly, Carney plans to run even bigger inflationary deficits than Trudeau has already budgeted. So this is a 20-year politician with no accomplishments under his belt. Like, I have no problem with career politicians personally if you have dedicated your life to helping people and doing things and actually doing something while you're in there instead of just being a mouthpiece and an attack dog. But Pierre Poilievre has no accomplishments as a 20-year politician. And he's trying to argue against a world-renowned economist on how you don't understand, your spending is deflationary, it's going to ruin the country. I don't think you're going to win that argument. So I hope people see through this. Don't take polling for granted. Make sure you vote if you haven't voted already. It's bizarre times right now to see that there is a conservative leader closer to Trump than ever before at a time when we simply cannot afford somebody like that to lead the country.